Welcome, everybody, to the local hour on Thursday. You know what that means? It means that David Samson, the host of Nothing Personal with David Samson, joins us. David, so much baseball news, so many big contracts being dished out. Aaron Judge back to the Yankees, Xander Bogaerts to the Padres. I read a report that Aaron Judge was also considering the Padres. How are the Padres finding all this money, and why aren't all the baseball teams like the Padres?
Well, thank God not all the baseball teams are like the Padres, because you'd run out of players to sign at some point. So I woke up this morning to that news as well, and it got me thinking that the Padres are like children, right? They're like me in 2012. We didn't get Pujols. We're going to find somebody. We've got money burning a hole in our pocket. I'd encourage the audience to just listen to the first 18 minutes. I'd like you to listen to all of it, but the first 18 minutes of today's Nothing Personal, I tried to explain in great detail why the Padres are doing what they're doing and the problem with what the Padres are doing. The Padres are acting as though they are something they're not, and in any business, when you try to be something you're not, like if you try to sell salads when you're McDonald's, you're going to have a problem. And the Padres are not a large revenue team. They can give you all the BS they want, that they have 3 million people in attendance. They have a waiting list for season tickets. What they really have is an owner who has no care about losing money on an annual basis. And that should make you happy if you're a fan, because what do you care if an owner makes or loses money? But owners have always been willing to lose money when they can make it up in their increased asset valuation. And that is not the case anymore, because these teams that are worth in the billions, these owners are so rich that they don't care about losing money, and they don't need to make it up on the increase in the asset valuation, because those increases are not going to be there. They're just treating this like a toy. And that's what the Padres have become. They're a toy, and that's bad for baseball, not good for baseball.
It's awesome for baseball because sports are supposed to be fun. I want my team to spend as much money as possible to load that roster up. I really don't care if the owner makes money or loses money. Sounds like the owner can survive it if he's spending all this money. So I understand that not every team can be the Padres, because not every player is elite. You're going to have teams hogging it, and there will be have and have-nots, even if everybody went to a free market trying to spend. But this is awesome. And for better or worse, as far as your perspective goes, I tune into Padres games. I do see a packed house. I do see a sports market that is totally on fire for this team. I don't necessarily know how that's a bad thing.
It's just not sustainable. So it's not a bad thing right now at all, right? AJ Preller, if you go back and look at his history, he always is irrational with what he does, and then he jettisons the players and starts again. And everyone's all excited when he signs Eric Hosmer, and then no one talks about when they spend 3 years trying to trade him because he's not worth the money. One of the issues I have, and it's not with players getting money, believe me. I was just talking about on the show today. I love what the Cubs did with Bellinger. Give him $17 million. It's a total overpay, but it's 1 year. See if you can fix him, make him better, see if he can recapture the greatness of his youth, and that's it. If not, move on. But when you're signing guys until they're 40, find me a player, a position player who doesn't put a needle in his ass, who's good when they're 39. Find me one.
Who doesn't put a needle in his ass?
That means steroids.
Yeah, no, I know. It's tough.
Oh.
It's tough.
I just wasn't sure if you thought that meant
that's still going on
something
right
else.
now, right?
There are still players using PEDs for sure. Yes.
So the Padres missed out on Aaron Judge and Trey Turner, and they
What does
signed.
that mean? What does that mean?
Well,
Did
they
you
made an
read that
offer
today.
Yeah.
They did? What did they? Wait a minute.
Oh,
Are you
wait.
telling me they made a $400 million 10-year offer?
Are you saying that this is horse hockey and just leveraging
No
and wasn't a real
chance.
Ross? It wasn't a real offer.
Zero chance. If Aaron Judge had been offered a 10th year at $40 million per year, he'd be a Padre. I want the Padres to show me that offer. I want Aaron Judge to acknowledge, I want to be a Yankee so badly. I love it here so much that I turned down 400 over 10. Here's the offer, no deferrals. Here's the actual tax basis in California versus New York, and I took less money to be a Yankee. Do that, Aaron.
I really want to hear the show that you would have done if Aaron Judge actually went to the Padres, though. Your head would have exploded.
It would have been amazing. right? Because Robinson Cano went to the Mariners. Do you know the Mets are paying Robinson Cano $30 million this year, having released him, paying the end of that Mariners deal? Remember, I don't know if you remember, it's a long time ago. Robinson Cano signed a 10-year deal. He left the Yankees, and everyone was shocked. The Mariners are signing a deal like this. They couldn't wait to get rid of him.
The Padres are now the first team in Major League Baseball history to have 3 players making over $300 million, all of them infielders. That's courtesy of Bob Nightingale.
Position players.
Yeah.
Right? The Yankees have 3, but one of them's a pitcher.
Right. So if you had to place a bet, would they get out from one of these contracts in the next 2 seasons?
In the next 2 seasons?
Yeah.
No.
They let it ride.
No. Well, is when you sign a guy to 11 years, when you keep a guy for 4 years, is that letting it ride?
I would say, though, in guys like Soto and Tatis, they have people that, and Xander Bogaerts is 30, so that's probably not great. But I would say they have people that have value in an open market.
Well, Soto is not signed long term. So he's got 2 more years. He's going to make a fortune in arbitration these last 2 years. And then he'll sign somewhere else in theory because there's no chance they're going to have 4 position players. And now you're reading spin by the Padres. This is what A.J. Preller's really good at. He'll do deals like this, and then he'll call up the media to make sure they write certain articles. And one of the things they're writing is the Padres are playing chess while we're all playing checkers, and they think that Machado could opt out of his deal after this coming season. So then they'll need Bogaerts to go to third base, or maybe they'll have Kim move over to third base from second base. And so this is just ensuring that he doesn't opt out. You don't make deals like this hoping that a player opts out to give you salary flexibility. Because what if Machado gets hurt? What if Machado doesn't have a great season? Then he's not going to opt out because he will not be able to beat the current deal he's on.
I want to ask you about the Boston Red Sox signing a Japanese player. His name is Yoshida, $85 million. Did you work with Major League Baseball? I think I asked you this before, but did you work with Major League Baseball to change the international rules when it came to signing talent? How did it work for you back when you were president of the Marlins? How does it work now, and how would you like to see it work?
So it was crazy the way it used to work when I started in baseball. It would be sealed bids where there was an unlimited number that you could offer to the team that owned the rights to the Japanese player, and they would post the player, and then all these teams would say, we'll give you $50 million. There was a player that the Red Sox got named Daisuke Matsusaka, and he was supposed to be the next perfect player.
The gyro ball.
I saw him pitch in spring training, and he really had 4 or 5 weird pitches that were hard to hit, but he ended up not being a successful major leaguer. But the Red Sox gave that Japanese team $50 million, and we went up to Bud Selig and said, this is not tenable. We cannot compete for any of these players because the Red Sox and the Dodgers and the Yankees just give the Japanese team $50 million, give Daisuke $50 million, and all of a sudden he's a $100 million player when he should only be a $50 million player. So the rules got changed. Now there's a set formula so everybody can give the Japanese team the same amount. So the Red Sox gave $15 million to get Yoshida. So what can the Red Sox do that other teams can't? Because of his age, the rules are that he's a true free agent, so he was eligible to get any amount of money. As opposed to Ohtani, who was not a true Japanese free agent when he came to the Anaheim Angels, and he only got a small amount of money with a wink-wink promise to get more later, which was not allowed, but which was done. So this was just a regular free agent signing. The extra $15 million just adds $3 million a year to the deal. He got $90 million, and he becomes Farrah Fawcett. That's who Yoshida is. Kenley Jansen and Yoshida are Farrah Fawcett.
I don't know what that means because that's a very old reference that you're making, and I don't understand what it means to be Farrah Fawcett.
To be Farrah Fawcett is to be on the cover of People magazine when you die because you're that famous, and then an hour later Michael Jackson dies. And all of a sudden you're off the cover of People and no one's talking about you. And everyone should have been excited in Boston about Yoshida and Kenley Jansen. And then all of a sudden Bogaerts goes to the Padres. And now no one could care less. The press conference for Yoshida is going to be attended by nobody but Japanese media. No one could care less that these guys are on the Red Sox. Everyone's angry with the owners of Liverpool that they let Bogaerts go to the Padres.
I want to ask you a couple of questions. Excuse me, Amin. Just a couple of questions regarding there's scandal, and in this sport generally, what I see happen with scandal is you never know when the accusations of trash can banging or steroids, they start as something very small, and then next thing you know, they're giant. There was a report this week that Manfred has been lying, and that baseball was using 3 baseballs this season, 2 of which are livelier than the others, and the pitchers are complaining. And I understand why baseball would go to livelier baseballs, because they want more offense, because it's not good that everyone's swinging and missing. What is that scandal? What's real there about them going to Costa Rica, making baseballs during the pandemic, and 2 of the 3 baseballs being livelier than the other baseballs, and the pitchers have been complaining about it all season?
Well, I don't think we have 18 minutes to go through this, but on yesterday's Nothing Personal, I gave you 18 minutes on this. Let me give you the 3-minute version, if you don't mind. Baseball will tell you that every baseball in play is within the definition of what the baseball needs to be in the rule book that is part of the collective bargaining agreement. It's the rules of Major League Baseball. Their main line is to tell you that any difference in the baseballs is due to the natural variation of a handmade product, because every baseball is handmade, which sounds crazy, but literally every baseball is handmade, which is why they're so expensive. The problem that Rob Manfred has is not giving the Yankees juice balls and helping Aaron Judge hit 62 home runs. The problem is that Rob Manfred has not told the truth. And when you don't tell the truth, as I very well know from a personal standpoint, when you lie about something, then everyone assumes you're lying about everything. And Rob Manfred lied about this for no reason. He could have just come out and explained why he didn't want these people to do a study who were not affiliated with baseball. He could have explained why he does studies of the ball with not including the union, just groups and scientists paid for by the commissioner's office. He could have worked with the players to do a combined study and hired an independent scientist who they both approved. But the reason they didn't want to do it is that they've never owned the one true fact, which is they do change the baseball because they do want a different outcome depending on a particular season, which is what football does and basketball does, and they admit it. NFL just changed the rules this year. They want more offense. Boom, 5-yard automatic first down for holding that's going to be enforced 5 yards down the field. 5 yards down the field. Why can't baseball just come out and say, hey, we want more home runs because that's what fans want, so we're juicing the ball? But they never admit that.
David, I had a quick question for you based on some conversations we've had around here about European soccer and the business side of that. What are your views on a system where who cares who's rich, who cares who's poor, let everything be a free-for-all, and where the smaller clubs basically exist to mine talent that they then get compensated for in the transfer?
God, that sounds like Major League Baseball, doesn't it?
Sounds like the Marlins. Sounds like your team.
Yeah.
We
People
have,
in Miami used to say that all the time. We don't want you to be the minor league system for other major league teams.
David, the Mets are acting responsibly, and my mind is blown. What the hell is going on?
Change that word. They're acting smartly, intelligently.
Okay.
Right? They're by signing Verlander to $43 million a year, right? You're saying we're not going to give DeGrom 5 years because he's not going to perform for 5 years. And Steve Cohen finally realizes that, hey, we better start being more like the Dodgers, which is we'll have a high payroll, but we're going to be smart about our long-term deals. And that's how the Dodgers have won consistently for the past decade. And so Mets fans should be celebrating what the way they're acting right now. So when they signed Lindor, that was bad Mets. And now they've realized that's not going to work, so they've become good Mets.
Can you help us understand, because you come at things pretty consistently through the prism of your experience as management, and we have played the sound to embarrass you for many, many years of saying that the $100 million contract of Ichiro was going to ruin the sport. But now the value of those contracts has gone up by 3 times without the sport being ruined. Explain to me the business of what's happening, David, because clearly these players are worth enough to pay them correctly. Clearly, these players, this is not irresponsible business. The business isn't collapsing with $300 million contracts. They can pay them because they can. So explain to me, as you lament the ruination of business with these contracts, why it is the business can withstand these contracts.
Because the business can't withstand these contracts. Operationally, these teams might as well be bankrupt. What actually is happening is you've got owners, because the teams are now worth in the billions, you've got owners when teams trade hands and they're being bought by billionaires like Jeff Bezos or Steve Ballmer. In the old days, the richest owner was a guy named Carl Pohlad. He owned the Minnesota Twins, the team that was going to be contracted. And he would never have a high payroll because he didn't want to lose money. And in those days, you bought a team for $80 million, $100 million, $150 million, maybe $300 million was outrageous. And you had people who came in to buy teams who were not billionaires. They were just millionaires, and they wanted to own a team. Now, if you're going to buy a team, you've got to be a billionaire, and therefore, from a percentage basis, if you have a company that loses $20 million to $50 million a year, you write it off as a discretionary expense that gives you joy. These owners get to walk around and be owners, and they get to go to any restaurant. Steve Ballmer said it in those words. I started Microsoft, and now I'm famous because I own the Clippers. So that's what's happened. It's not that the business can withstand it. It's that the valuation of the teams has gone so high, and so many more teams are changing hands, and the owners who are buying them are so wealthy, and such a small number of them now are eligible to buy these teams, and those are the teams doing these deals.
David, is that what happened in San Diego, where they were a team that they were never in on free agents, and now they're in on every single free agent? What's changed there?
Peter Seidler is the new general partner. He took over for Ron Fowler. He's now in charge. Peter Seidler, by the way, incidentally, is the one who also owns Rawlings with Major League Baseball. It makes the baseballs in Costa Rica, funny enough. Wouldn't it be unbelievable if you are the Yankees and you found out that it's true that Aaron Judge was playing with juice balls and they're going to unjuice the Yankee balls next year and he'll never come close to 62 home runs and you just gave him $40 million a year? Wouldn't that suck if you're Hal Steinbrenner?
Roy, put it on the poll, please, at LeBatardShow. Should we unjuice the Yankee balls? I want to ask you about the business portion of this. One more question about this, because I've heard, David, I have heard the entire time I've been alive, people like you tell me how it's not sustainable business, while all of the values of the contracts go up, and while all the values of the regional TV contracts go up, and while all the values of the franchises go up. You guys have been lying to me for 30 years about how it's not a sustainable model, not a sustainable business model, and now you're saying that these guys are willing to just lose money, willing to lose money by hundreds of millions to own teams, and I'm looking at you like, don't tell me it's not a sustainable business model. I just saw Trey Turner get $300 million for 11 years, and I saw you yourself give Stanton what seemed like a crazy contract at the time that is now getting dwarfed everywhere.
Does the Stanton contract become good, by the way, now that his max is like 31?
Why didn't it ruin the business? Why you have lamented the $100 million?
I just explained to you, but maybe you were on a break.
I'm listening.
It's a totally different model now because of the losses that teams are willing to have.
But David, their franchise.
The Padres lose money, Dan.
David, the loss isn't real because the appreciation of the franchise makes it so the losses aren't real.
But I'm trying to explain that is not sustainable, because when you buy a team, what do you think Walton with the Broncos? $4.65 billion for the Broncos. So is his return going to be the same as the trust, was it Bolin or Bowden? Bolin, right? The previous owner was Pat Bolin. Pat Bolin. Do you think that the ROI for Walton will be the same as the ROI for Bolin? Do you think that the person who buys from Artie Moreno, buys the Anaheim Angels of Los Angeles, that his ROI will be the same as what Moreno got for buying the team 20 years ago? It's totally different now. So the answer is it wasn't sustainable. But there's another point, which is don't forget to look at total industry payroll. You're focused on certain players at the top, but if one guy makes $30 million and in return, the two guys who are going to make 15 only make 10, that means that payroll has actually not gone up. So I'm not looking just at the payrolls on the top end of the Mets and of the Padres. I'm looking at payrolls on the bottom end as well, and I'm adding them all up to see where industry payroll is, not just individual players.
So Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
I call them the Anaheim Angels of Los Angeles.
That's a fine.
Because Artie Moreno would stand up at owners' meetings, and he would get so angry. The way I am with a P in my name, if you referred to them as the Anaheim Angels, he would be furious because he wanted to be known as Los Angeles Angels. So what Bud Selig, who was basically at war with Artie Moreno, and Tom Ostertag, who would take attendance at owners' meetings, he would purposefully say during the attendance to see if there's a quorum, he would say, Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
David, what are you reviewing for us this week? Every week you give us a movie review or a documentary review or a television series review. What is the host of Nothing Personal with David Samson reviewing for us this week?
Please say Lord of War.
I love that movie, by the way. With Tom
File.
Brady's Bridget Monahan is in that movie and playing the wife. It's actually, he's got a family too. By the way, if we're talking about families, so that's good for his family. I'm reviewing Good Rivals. And I want to say from the outset that Meadowlark Media, have you guys reviewed that yet?
No, I don't think we have reviewed it yet.
So Good Rivals is a documentary on Amazon right now. It's a 3-part documentary that is a Meadowlark Media production where, by the way, Witty, Mike, I don't know what happened, but you need a better representative for your contract because I believe that Witty and Dan were special thanks in a list, and I did not see your name. So I was curious whether maybe Morley Abhorrent hadn't started by then or whether you were just not involved, but I think you deserved a special thanks. And Stu, obviously you don't, but...
Thank you.
So you're welcome.
Yeah.
So Good Rivals is about USA and Mexico, and it came out during the perfect time. Meadowlark Media, and this is not me kissing their ass, brilliant timing in the release of this, which took quite a bit of forethought because obviously there's World Cup fever everywhere around this country and around this world. And this goes into detail about the past of Canada, of Mexico and USA. I never knew any of it because I'm new to football and I'm in love with it now and learning so much about it. I never knew about what is it in Spanish, Dan? Dos a zeros?
2-0.
Dos a cero.
2-0.
Which I had no idea what that was. Apparently, wait, are you making fun of the accent?
It's also a
That's
fine.
not nice. Oh, to speak Spanish when you're Jewish?
You got
is
it
a fine?
wrong.
No, that's
Speak
not
Spanish
a fine.
poorly.
It's not a fine. It's not a fine to
wrong.
speak Spanish
Zero.
when you're Jewish.
Dos
No.
Aceros.
Dos a zeros.
So all these games would end 2-0, and it was very bizarre. And it goes into both from a Mexico perspective and U.S. perspective with amazing sit-down interviews, including with the stars of each team, and talks about what that rivalry actually meant. And it did not get a lot of play in the U.S., at least from where I was sitting back in the day. And so I feel like I got caught up with 20 years of U.S. soccer and the past U.S. soccer. So if you are looking to take advantage of this newfound love of football, soccer, because of the World Cup, watch Good Rivals, regardless of who produced it. And what a great job you did, Dan. And John Skipper is listed as an executive producer. And it's an easy watch. You watch all 3 episodes at once, and you learned more from each episode than you thought, and you retain almost all of it, even if you don't speak Spanish. The subtitles are very clear, and the interviews are really good. So I found it to be really worth seeing. It's called Good Rivals. It's on Amazon Prime right now.
Deidre, the head of our doc division, said that Mike Ryan and Chris Whittingham were invaluable in the making of that film. So that is your special thanks, Mike.
Special thanks to David Samson. Follow him on Twitter at David P. Samson. We'll talk to you next week.
Wait, what about Mas Miami? Am I coming or not?
I don't know.
And after last
What's
time?
the story?
It's kind of
Because
up to
I
you,
tried to get
Dave. I
tickets.
mean,
I wanted to get a VIP ticket. They're sold out. I didn't know whether you want me there or not, and it's coming up this weekend. So I'm just, Dan, I've been trying to reach you off air, but that's been unsuccessful. So let me know, do I need to, is there like a ticket window, or can I scalp them? What are we doing?
You can have my ticket, Dave, if you want.
He'll be scalping them outside. He'll be scalping them outside of. He'll be having
$1,000. Yeah.
He'll be having somebody scalp them outside of Wynwood Marketplace on his behalf. Thank you, David. Appreciate you. Appreciate that we will probably see you tomorrow. You have been invited.
He's gone.
See you later.
Today is Thursday.
He's coming in tomorrow, though.
It's 2 days from now.
We've got breaking news. President Biden has put on his Twitter account that Brittney Griner is safe, that he has spoken to her, that she is flying on her way home. Brittney Griner is let go from a Russian penal colony in exchange for an arms dealer named Victor Bout, merchant of death, conspired to kill Americans, 25-year prison sentence. The good news here is that Brittney Griner is safe and coming home. We will talk about this with Kate Fagan in about an hour, because this has been in the news here for many months, and a lot of people were scared about what Brittney Griner was enduring for a vape pen, and now someone nicknamed the Merchant of Death, somebody who has conspired to kill Americans, has been let go in order for Brittney Griner to arrive at the safety of American freedom. So we will get to that in an hour, but we will continue with the local hour here. And before we get to the Miami Heat that Mike Ryan has referred to as pathetic, I want to analyze, Stugotz. You've seen what's happened about and around Tua Tagovailoa, and it's crazy. It's unlike anything in the sport and unlike anything I've seen in South Florida sports that's maybe, outside of the big three with the Heat and the original University of Miami Hurricanes, who were desecrating sportsmanship.
Sure.
But the polarizing reaction around Tua is such that yesterday you could get Colin Cowherd doing the trolley easy thing of saying that Tua got exposed against the 49ers and he's quote unquote kind of what we thought he was, when none of us has known what he was, on the day that kind of what we thought he was is getting more Pro Bowl votes than any player in the league.
Please don't give Colin Cowherd what he wants. I have been so disappointed as someone that is such a fan of Colin Cowherd and how meticulous he is about making sure that he control fan bases with knowledge and really pop and trend. He has totally mailed this 201 in. He has no fact. He doesn't even watch. He's just doing it to get what he's getting right now, and it's his laziest effort yet.
But, Mike, when you say, please don't give Colin Cowherd attention, I've been wanting to give attention to how it is that the people who have made their way through the labyrinth of this industry to get the big platforms and the voices, how they age. Colin Cowherd's not going to care about this in his late 50s the way he did in his 30s, but if he's got a bunch of writers and can just be like, come into the room and say, hey, what's the thing I can do or say? Give me, and of course it's going to get lazier. Like, how do you
but it wasn't lazy with Baker Mayfield. Man, he was feeling it. There's so many times that he's on it. And the 201, it's just, he sees the metrics. I think he's a little jealous of Emmanuel Ancho.
Really?
Can I read a Chris Sims tweet? It's perspective on this. He's better at this than all of us. On paper, it might have looked like the 49ers D shut down the Dolphins offense. Definitely not the case. Walked away thinking better of the Dolphins than I had before. Mike McDaniels had the guys wide open all day. Haven't seen that against the San Francisco defense all season.
Chris, I want to ask you a very serious, very real question. I need you to answer honestly. If Chris Sims had said the exact opposite, would you have read his tweet?
If
he has said the opposite.
I trust Chris Sims more than any of us.
I'm not denying that. I'm saying if he had said the exact opposite, would you have offered that one, or would you have just played the background and been quiet?
Probably would have shut up.
Okay.
I like that he felt better about the Dolphins after they lost and only scored 17
Well,
points.
he's saying that the Dolphins offense had people wide open all day, and he hasn't seen that against San Francisco, which is something.
Pretty big indictment on Tua.
He's also said San Francisco, which they do, has the best defense in the NFL, best roster top to bottom, and Sims was impressed with Tua, like their ability to come back, Tua's ability.
Not this game, though. Tua was bad, Stugotz. Tua was bad in this football game.
He was bad against the best defense in the NFL. But, Dan, he had some moments. He had the 2 touchdown passes. He got his team. I mean, if Gesicki makes that catch,
Stugotz, they were playing
we might be talking about a Dolphin victory.
Stugotz, they were playing against the backup quarterback. They were playing against Mr. Irrelevant. And
The backup.
And everyone, that's right. And everyone
Gesicki.
here is telling you.
Sorry.
You're never going to get that one right.
No.
Quite frankly, I'm just starting to get it right. He's been here for 4 years?
Yeah.
Everyone around this is telling you that it wasn't actually the 49ers defense, that Tua was just bad.
Okay.
And Colin Cowherd is now jumping to the easy place that Mike Ryan is saying, jealous of Emmanuel Acho, who has noticed that if you just ride high with Tua, you will get a great deal of applause. I just can't believe that the place that we are in media coverage on this is just people licking their finger, putting it up to the air and saying, let's see what my opinion is. Where can I get the most applause, or where can I get the most clicks, or where can I be most overt about doing this dirtiest instead of authentically?
And what's wrong with that?
I would say to you that it's really lazy.
And what's wrong with that?
Not everyone can get paid the way you do for being really lazy.
I think we're learning that we've been trying to figure out this pie chart all season. McDaniel might be the biggest piece of pie in this pie.
No.
How many slices of pie?
Tyreek was asked yesterday, hey, you should get credit too. Everyone's giving to it. Like, that's because you're here. He's like, dude, this guy designed 700 plays for him to watch. This is Mike McDaniel. Like, even Tyreek was like, this is because of Mike McDaniel.
And to piggyback off of Chris, what I'm more impressed in is the process of the offense with McDaniel over the results of Tua, right? Like the fact that he's scheming guys so open against the best defense in the NFL is really encouraging.
Tony, the thing that is happening here that is really encouraging, which I was talking about just his 4th down decision at his own 18 or 19-yard line, is that you can now come away with the hope, oh, wait, we got the disciple of Shanahan who can also win with Garoppolo and Mr. Irrelevant. Like, maybe Tua's great, and maybe this is scheme and wide receivers, and we can argue about that for, however long we want to argue about that. But if you've got a coach who can give you the scheme that can make Stugotz, Garoppolo, somebody who's the backup to the backup, and now Mr. Irrelevant be someone who can win football games, this is something that organizationally has to give you pleasure.
Can we pump the brakes on Brock Purdy? I mean, Garoppolo was selected to be the guy that replaced Tom Brady by Bill Belichick, okay? Like, he's a good quarterback. We saw Brock Purdy do it for a single week. I have no idea if Shanahan can win big with Purdy. I mean,
that's not my point. My point is just that Shanahan has won with Matt Ryan in Atlanta.
Right.
Shanahan is clearly someone who can put together a system that births a McDaniel who puts together a system that looks the way the Dolphins have looked. You can pump the brakes on Purdy. I don't think anybody's saying that he's great. He won this single game. He was the last draft pick. Like, you're asking to pump the brakes on something that no one believes in after a week of winning.
I'm just saying, let's pump the brakes on Kyle Shanahan and Purdy. Matt Ryan was an MVP. You're talking about like you're giving Shanahan the credit for Matt Ryan.
Hasn't been an MVP since then. Wasn't before then and hasn't been. Okay, good.
Win a Super Bowl. I'm tired of hearing how great Shanahan is. Can win with any quarterback. Can do it with Purdy. Can do it with Garoppolo. Can do it with Ryan. He hasn't done it with anyone. What has he done?
He was up 28-3 in one Super Bowl against the Patriots, and he was 6 minutes away from being Mahomes in another Super Bowl with Garoppolo. What has he done?
Oh, he lost him.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good point.
Thank you, Amin.
He's got you there. Like, there's 2 ways to look at it. One is that he was up 22-8, and the other one is, hey, man, he blew a 22-8 lead. Doesn't sound like good coaching to me,
Most
Dano.
coaches put that away.
Yeah.
I mean.
Just to put a bow on this entire Tua segment
boa?
And all that, trade everybody. The Heat should tank. I'm saying also trade Jimmy Butler.
Oh, you think there's a trademark?
Everyone.
You think there's a trademark?
Really?
I've never been a fan of Charles Barkley's Heat analysis. It's been terrible for 20 years.
No, it's been
However,
terrible.
That's good shout. However, when he said it's time to pack things in and become sellers and trade some of these guys at contenders, That was the best point he's ever made about Heat basketball. The season is over. They had the most impressive galvanizing win of the season at Boston. What did they do with it? They lost to Memphis without their starting five, and they lost to one of the worst teams in the NBA at home. They got run off the court by Detroit. I don't know what the problem is with this team. They shouldn't be this bad, but it's a lost season. It's a lost season.
So there's a couple of things, right? We talked about this a little bit yesterday. You weren't here. The Eastern Conference picture is so compressed, even as they had the 2 worst losses of the season. They're right there. They're right there. They are a good week and a half from being back towards the top. The other thing is, you think about the way Boston started their year last year. We like around this time last year, we didn't think this would be a team that represented.
Very young team.
Okay,
that's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. We got Kyle Lowry leading the league in minutes right now.
Okay, I mean, but look, and to me, it's a lot. This is going to sound weird, right? It'll sound weirdly optimistic. I think there's a lot more room for optimism when there's clearly things we're doing wrong. Because I can say, oh, I can fix that, I can fix that, I can fix that, and now let's see what happens. Versus we're doing everything we should be doing, and we're still getting work. Then there's no room for improvement.
We've seen the apex of this team, and we learned it was Max Strus heel away potentially from making it to the NBA Finals, and NBA Finals that they probably would have lost.
They would have got rocked.
That was the apex of this unit. We saw how close it could get. They're not getting closer.
That might be true, Mike, but I don't think it's blow this whole thing up, particularly for an organization that in its Pat Riley history has done that all of one time. Twice. They did it twice.
But, I mean, this seems like a combination of the Heat not being as good as they were a year ago and the Celtics being better. Like, the East seems very top-heavy.
Sure.
The Celtics beat the Suns by 30 on the road without Al Horford. I mean...
But I think those are 2 different conversations.
Yeah.
There's 2 different conversations of, are we as good as the Celtics? Can we be as good as the Celtics? Maybe not, but that's not a conversation to have in December.
You were as good last year. They've gotten better. You've gotten considerably worse.
I don't think they're 2 different conversations. That's the standard. That's what meets you at the rim with Adebayo in the bubble, and that's what met you at the end of last season. I don't think they're different conversations. That's the standard in the East, and Milwaukee's lurking all around it, and Miami's got to be better than them. That's all. Man, Pat Riley's 78 years old. You got to be better than the Celtics.
Again, the standard is not achieved in December. If that were the case, this time last year, we would have said the Celtics.
Marcus Smart was having a team meeting back then, and since then, the Boston Celtics have
been
played,
amazing.
No, but not just amazing. Since then, the Boston Celtics have done nothing but improve, and since then, they have been the best team in the league. They lost to Golden State, but the way that they have played over the last season...
12 months. Let's just call it 12 months.
It's almost... since that team meeting, the Boston Celtics have been... You look at what they do and what the Golden State Warriors have done, the Boston Celtics have been better than anyone in the sport since that meeting.
Yes, and also... This time last year, we weren't talking like that. That's my point. I'm not saying the Heat are going to go on an amazing run and be the best team over the next 12 months. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you cannot sit on December 7th or whatever it is today, December 8th, and say, oh, that's it. When you are 3 games out of
No, this is Mike Ryan's thing, though. Mike Ryan is super emotional about this team.
And by the way, you can't say that in general.
I've been very rational.
You can't say that in general for any team in the league. Any team in the league that is 2-3 games under 500, but still 4 games out from a home court advantage spot, right? You can't say that for any team in the league. But you definitely can't say it about the team that has tanked twice in 30 years. Twice.
Yeah, I have no evidence that they're good at tanking because the last time they went for it, they got Michael Beasley. But I've never been more honest with myself and the audience about one of the teams that I support than this Miami Heat team.
I guess what I'm saying is you can say, I don't have confidence that this can get turned around, that we're going to get back to the conference final. You can say that, but to say there should you are speaking a fantasy land. It's like saying I should say, you know what, Rihanna should go out on a date with me. It's not going to happen.
Here's why I'm saying it. It's because their team is so old. They're
Mike.
just super old.
Mike.
What? Say they turn it around and hit good form. What's the ceiling on that? 7 seed?
Probably a second round appearance. Probably a second round appearance.
What are we doing this for? The guys are 38 years old.
Mike.
Kyle Lowry's leading the league in minutes.
Mike.
Jimmy Butler's only getting older. What are we doing this for?
That's the second time you said that about Kyle Lowry, and I was more shocked the second time than I was the first.
absurd.
I don't believe it. I
By
still
the way,
don't.
Stugotz, which of Kyle Lowry's field goal was your favorite against the Pistons?
Now he's doing chat material, ladies and gentlemen.
What's a good tweet?
What? Here's the question, Mike. What's the ceiling on Rihanna going out on a date with me? One date, she realizes, I probably don't have a lot in common, and that's it.
The ceiling is her saying no.
Okay.
Ghosting.
No,
Ghosting is the ceiling.
Okay. All of these options are irrelevant.
We're all admitting that the ceiling is something that would drive Pat Riley crazy.
And
the answer is not on this roster.
You know what drives him even crazier? Even crazier than that ceiling? The idea that in December, 4 games out of home court advantage, this ain't working. Hey, who wants this? Who wants that? We're gonna get ping pong balls.
Congrats to you. Congrats to you. You've out-cultured me. I get it. But you yourself, at your most rah-rah, said the ceiling for this team is 7 seed, possibly second round.
I don't think 7 seed is the ceiling. I think second round is the ceiling.
What a waste of time this season is.
Dude, man,
what a waste of people's prime.
You guys thought
second round to the playoffs. Second round to the playoffs does feel like a waste of time.
Players are not without blame here.
Yeah.
They've been terrible. I don't know how you don't find the motivation to just show up against Memphis and against Detroit after that win. That was the moment. That was a moment that everybody was in my mentions that Friday with that Jimmy Butler performance. Jimmy saying, yeah, we're coming. That was the moment to turn your season around, and you did dick with it.
I said after the Suns win, after the Heat beat the Suns, I said, I know they won, and I know the numbers are going to look good, but this team is not executing the way we're accustomed to seeing Miami Heat execute. I said that then after a win. You wonder how they can. I don't think it's an effort thing. I don't think like the guys are just mailing it in.
It's certainly a motivation thing.
I think
if this were 10 years ago, we'd have fired Spo.
I think they are in a place where execution is not happening, and they haven't had a lot of practice time, and that impacts Miami more than it impacts most other teams. Like Boston doesn't need to practice, has a need for practice as much as Miami.
Riley's very frustrated
because
by that.
We're talking about practice.
We're talking about practice.
Riley's is very frustrated.
The team's been together forever.
Mike, they have not in 3 years been able to practice the way that Riley would like them to be practicing.
Who do we have to work into the lineup?
Well, Jimmy Butler the last couple of games would have been nice, Mike.
You root
practice.
for a team. You root for a team. I know this is hard because you guys live with the shine of 2010 to 2014 in your minds all the time. But this team, by and large, has never been we just got the best players and we'll just beat your ass either way.
I understand,
it's an execution system.
It's the same team.
But execution is not something you have to keep doing it. We talk about it all the time when quarterbacks don't go to minicamp. Oh my God, the timing is off.
Mike, you're talking about motivation and stuff because the offense is bottom 5 in the league. And Amin is sitting here telling you that's execution. You think they don't care enough. I don't want to hear from you anymore because they've lost you. And I don't want to hear from Amin. Like, I've arrived in an insane place when Amin is out heat culturing you. Having heard this discussion, Parakeet Cortes, Minister of Heat Propaganda,
just taking deep breaths back here.
He flew in listening to this.
Got here quickly.
Got here on an airplane in 2 minutes. Go ahead. You've got Parakeet Cortes. I will not let Mike Ryan interrupt you with his emotion. You have 2 minutes to explain to him why he's a fool.
First of all, this conversation is disgusting. I've had it with Mike Ryan. Like, he's lost me. Mike says he's done on the Heat. I'm done on Mike Ryan. Like, this dude is out here supporting vigorously a team, the Miami Hurricanes, that have 6 people in the stands every weekend, and he accuses me of propaganda, and the Hurricanes with pictures of there's no seatbacks and all that. That's the team that he gives like vigorous support to, that he believes in, like no matter what. Not the Miami Heat that's giving you 20 years of this shit. You're like, you've seen 2 losses and you're like, yo, I'm out. Like, we did this last year. Like, forget propaganda. As Amin has said, Boston went 9-8 and all this shit. Look at the Heat's last year. Last year the Heat was a 1 seed. And they realized, like, we burnt, like, we treated last year like every game has burned the boats. And by the time they got to regular season, PJ Tucker was hurt, Jimmy Butler was hurt, Max Strus was hurt. And so they evaluate this year and they're like, shit, man, Jimmy's not going to, like, let me take nights off. When we play a bad team, admittedly, there is an effort. That's why they've lost. But that's also why to be encouraged, because we still know we got Jimmy and Bam, man.
Got to turn it on.
Jimmy and Bam on the court was a plus 10 net rating a week ago. Like, the sample with the starters, the sample with Jimmy and Bam is fantastic. The issue's been Dwayne Dedman. The issue's been the bench. Like, those are fixable issues. Like, your core is good.
We're back,
And
baby.
Mike wants to cry about this shit. But I just want to let you know right now, Mike, you don't get to watch the playoffs. You don't get to celebrate. You're out. It's over for you.
Yeah.
All your Heat merch, throw it away.
Nice.
You're done.
Ryan, you will be right there with me not watching the playoffs.
I've seen every second. You're dead in this town.
You gotta be in it to watch.
I love you pronouncing who's dead in this town.
Dead in this town.
He's a dead man.
Heyo. Good job, Chris. Mike looks so frustrated.
Yeah, that was so empty and hollow. You didn't even convince
He didn't
yourself.
talk about the
Like,
Heat
it was-
at all. He
that was
just
the
talked
most
about the games.
pathetic Ryan Cortez appearance I've ever heard. It's just a waste. Can we edit that out?
Honestly-
I mean, I feel like you faked an orgasm on me. I feel so bad for you. Look at you. You even know.